The sun hammered the Arizona Badlands until the rocks wept heat. Elena Ruiz ran barefoot, lungs searing, every breath a rasp of fire. Dust masked her face, blood ribboned her ankles where yucca blades had slashed. Hooves pounded closer, relentless, hungry. A rifle shot shattered the air. Her raw scream answered it. She refused to look back. Elena, 26, had fled 3 days from men who pinned stars on their chests, but wore darkness inside. The ground lurched. She snagged a mesquite root, crashed hard. Palms shredded on lava rock, knees kissed dirt. Each inhale tasted of copper and regret. Every heartbeat felt borrowed. Heat devils danced until she spotted salvation. A wind-scarred ranch, cedar rails half fallen, a warped table slumped beside a leaning barn. No voices, no badges, just the hush of wind and the drone of horseflies. She clawed forward, fingers digging furrows, until the table's shadow swallowed her. Strength fled. She gripped a splintered leg like it was the last honest thing left. Then came the boots, measured, unhurried. She lifted her head. A man stood 8 paces off, shoulders like barn beams, skin baked walnut by decades of sun, eyes the gray of monsoon clouds. In his hand, a broadaxe still dripping sap from piñon. He didn't look like the law, but he looked like a man who had shoveled graves the desert never surrendered. He stepped nearer. She tried to crawl away. Her body refused. When he knelt and reached toward her shoulder, terror exploded. "Be gentle," she croaked, voice cracked as sun-split clay. "It's too fast." The plea hung trembling between them. His hand froze. Something ancient flickered in his eyes, recognition of wounds that cut deeper than flesh. He lowered his arm, rose, strode to the barn, returned with a battered canteen, set it beside her without a word, then turned his back. Space, choice, mercy. Elena stared at the water until her reflection wavered. The desert never gave without taking double. Her fingers shook as she uncapped it. The first swallow tasted like forgiveness. From the corral drifted the soft nicker of a gelding, the creak of a gate. He was still there, watching or guarding, she couldn't tell. "Who are you? Who are you?" she whispered to the wind. "Why didn't you leave me for the buzzards?" Dusk bled violet across the sky, turning the barn to bruised copper. She woke to the scent of coffee and the low crackle of mesquite embers. The canteen lay half empty. He had not reclaimed it. She found him splicing rope, movements slow as molasses, like a man who had quit racing the sun. He glanced up, gave a single nod, nothing more. Her stomach growled loud enough to startle a roadrunner. He disappeared inside, returned with fry bread and a tin cup of water. "Eat," he said, voice rough as riverstone. She took it with trembling hands. The bread was coarse, real, alive. After 3 bites, she murmured, "You could have sold me for the bounty." He wiped calluses on his denims. Could have. A pause. Didn't. "Why?" He studied her long. "Because you didn't beg. You just needed the running to stop." The words settled like dust after a stampede. Silence stretched, thick as saddle soap. She stood, legs wobbling, eyes flicking to the open desert beyond the gate. Freedom or fear, same horizon. Her gaze snagged on an old Henry repeater leaning in the corner, oiled but honest, pulse spiked. Trap or truth? He followed her stare. "Take it if it'll quiet your nightmares," he said softly. "Shoot me if it helps you sleep." She swallowed hard. "I don't want to shoot anyone." He shrugged. "Then don't." That night she lay on clean straw, moonlight slicing through knotholes like silver knives. Each gust rattled the latch. She flinched, waiting for boots, for shouts, for the past to drag her back. But all she heard was his steady breathing on the porch, sentry, not jailer. Dawn painted the mesa rose and amber. He set a tin cup of coffee by the barn door. "Coffee," he said, one word, no pressure. She stepped into the light, face scrubbed raw by yesterday's tears. For a heartbeat she forgot to be afraid. Then she saw them. 4 riders on the ridge, dusters flapping like vultures, eyes narrow with small-town poison. Not deputies, just townsmen drunk on gossip and righteousness. One spat tobacco juice. Rancher's gone soft for a border stray. His jaw clenched, but he said nothing, just stared until they wheeled their mounts and vanished in a cloud of dust. The insult lingered heavier than hoofprints. She swallowed hard. I don't want to shoot anyone. He shrugged. Then don't. That night she lay on clean straw, moonlight slicing through knotholes like silver knives. Each gust rattled the latch. She flinched, waiting for boots, for shouts, for the past to drag her back. But all she heard was his steady breathing on the porch. Sentry, not jailer. Dawn painted the mesa rose and amber. He set a tin cup of coffee by the barn door. Coffee, he said, one word, no pressure. She stepped into the light, face scrubbed raw by yesterday's tears. For a heartbeat, she forgot to be afraid. Then she saw them. 4 riders on the ridge, dusters flapping like vultures, eyes narrow with small-town poison. Not deputies, just townsmen drunk on gossip and righteousness. One spat tobacco juice. Rancher's gone soft for a border stray. His jaw clenched, but he said nothing, just stared until they wheeled their mounts and vanished in a cloud of dust. The insult lingered heavier than hoofprints. Elena's fists balled. They hate me. He sipped coffee slow. They hate what they can't control. She huffed a tired laugh. Then they hate the whole damn world. A ghost of a smile cracked his granite face, the first fracture in years. Noon brought Sheriff Harlan, boots polished, hat too white for honest work. He leaned on the doorframe. Heard you got a guest, Caleb. A pretty one, too. Caleb didn't answer. Harlan's eyes slid to Elena. Law says she can't stay. Caleb met his gaze. Law also says my land's mine. Tension thickened like summer thunder. Harlan smirked. Always testing limits. Don't let this one ruin you. He tipped his hat and left. Silence roared louder than gunfire. Evening found Elena on the porch steps, watching the sun bleed into the horizon. They won't stop, will they? Caleb answered softly. No, but neither will you. Her lips curved, the smallest smile but real. Night dropped like a curtain, heavy and dry. Air smelled of rain that never came. Caleb sat by the fire, honing a skinning knife. Old habit when trouble circled. Elena mended a torn sleeve by lamplight inside the barn. The flame trembled with every gust. Then, horse whinny, boots on gravel. Caleb's head lifted. He counted steps. 3, maybe 4. Too light for ranch hands, too bold for drifters. The door creaked. A slurred voice. Look what the old man's hiding. Same ridge riders, drunk on whiskey and hate. Caleb stood, knife in hand. Told you to stay off my land. They stepped closer. Don't own the girl, Caleb. She's worth coin to the right folks. Before he could answer, Elena emerged with the Henry repeater. Hands shook, eyes didn't. I'm not for sale. The leader grinned. You don't belong here. He lunged, grabbed her arm. Rifle butt met his nose. Crunch. Blood spray. He staggered. Others charged. Caleb's fist cracked a jaw. Pain lanced his shoulder, but he fought like a man with nothing left to lose. Elena screamed, fired one shot skyward. Thunder split the night. Horses bolted. The men retreated, dragging their bleeding friend, curses fading into darkness. Silence fell, broken only by Caleb's ragged breath. He leaned on the fence, blood on his temple, dust in his hair. Elena dropped the rifle, ran to him. Why fight for me? He looked long, tired of good people bleeding for no reason. Wind carried gunpowder and the promise of rain. They stood in half light, 2 souls with nothing left but each other. Trust took root in the quiet. But the desert keeps secrets. A darker shadow waited beyond the ridge. Morning rose gold after the storm. Ground smelled of wet dust and spent powder. Caleb stood on the porch, arm bandaged, staring across land that had seen too much. Elena stepped out with 2 cups of coffee, face calm, softer than ever. She handed him one without a word. They watched the sun climb. No soldiers, no strangers, no running. Just wind through dry grass. Caleb spoke first. Road's clear. Leave if you want. She studied scarred hands. Ran my whole life. From people, pain, myself. Time to stop. He smiled. Then stay. Invitation, not command. For peace, for healing. Weeks blurred. Elena mended rails, learned to throw a loop, laughed without catching herself. Town whispered, didn't matter. One twilight. Regret helping me? Caleb drew a long breath. Regret? Number. Chances to do right are rare. You take them. He turned, eyes steady. You saved me too. Just don't know it yet. Sunset painted them gold. Two strangers now side by side. Not fate, but choice. Kindness stronger than fear. Love that doesn't roar, just stays. The desert taught hard lessons, but this one was soft. Sometimes one act of mercy rewrites a life. Sometimes love begins with a canteen left in the dust, a rifle offered without strings, a porch guarded through the night. Sometimes healing is simply stopping long enough to see another human being. Subscribe directly and hit the bell. The next chapter drops Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Comment, stay, to keep the fire burning. Pour yourself some coffee, tea, or something stronger. The West isn't tired of it yet.